maybe we're live. Are we live? Is it going to go live? And so I'm just going to start. So I'm Brice, the CEO for Mile High Continuing Care, and I'm here with Sarah Zubrin, the Chief Clinical Officer for Mile High Continuing Care, and our guest is Laura Peña from Art for Ashes. And we're doing this for Substance Abuse Prevention Month, October. It's also Sober October, which someone told me about this morning, and I didn't know that because every month is sober for me. So let's just go ahead and just like tell us, give us the elevator pitch, the overview of what Art for Ashes is, how long you've been around, maybe why it started and what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, so okay. I'm the programs manager at Art from Ashes, and we actually last Sunday just celebrated our 17th year anniversary birthday. So we've been around for a minute. Really what we do is we focus on youth, anywhere from 11 to 24, on empowerment workshops through written word and poetry. So it's a lot of coming in, talking about the narrative and your story and how that can change for yourself. So that's a lot of what we do. It's a bunch of quick prompts. So there are a bunch of 3-minute prompts. So that way we talk a lot about the left brain and the right brain, getting rid of that left side brain, pushing out the right side, the creative side, and whatever needs to come out is going to come out. There's no right or wrong. So in a nutshell, that is what we do.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome, actually. Sarah, can you speak to that?
I really think it just is embracing like that creative side. I love it. How do you find most kids get involved in the program?
So of course, at this point, being around for 17 years, been a lot of word of mouth. Pre-COVID versus, of course, now in it. Our office was right down off like Osage and 10th. So we're right off the light rail. Every Wednesday, we have a free workshop. So we would just put a sign out our door saying that we had a workshop. If you're in this age range, we have free pizza for you. We got snacks. We got journals. If you want to come in, have a bite to eat, and write for a little bit, come hang out with us. And so we did a lot that for many, many years. Now we're still doing the workshops, but of course it's much different as it is for everybody. So we're just doing them via Zoom, but that's a lot of it was just having the sign out, being able to feed whoever came in and giving them a place to be creative and say whatever they needed to say. Now we've always had a lot of contracts. So we're in DPS, we're in the high schools, the junior highs, we're a lot of that way as well as being contracted out in the city.
And what's the population that you serve? Is it what do you refer to them as? Disadvantaged?
I think really what Ashes is now, it's all youth. Like okay. I think that we are all struggling with something to some degree. That's just being a human. So I think really there's no like not struggling certain dynamic or population. It's really just any youth, 11 to 24. We want to hang out with you. We want to know what you have to say. We want to hear your voice.
So you say that's okay, great. And so you say you're in the high schools. Are they like what do you have, like, big bulletin boards, posters for sign up? Are you being referred for counselors and teachers? Are they identifying? Yeah.
We are enrichment programs. So at no point in time are we therapists. Are we saying that we're therapists? None of that is what we're doing. So a lot of it is us just reaching out to the principal, to whoever's doing the programs, and we're going in as an enrichment. Great example, right now we're in Denver Online High School. So they get to choose whether or not they sign up for our enrichment program versus another one.
And has COVID affected you guys big time?
Of course, 100%. It's been drastic, right? I think it's been monumental for the whole world, of course. It's been monumental for all nonprofits, and monumental for us and what we do. It's a lot of what we do is I don't go in and don't, again, we're not therapists. We're not going in and individually going to each youth and trying to find out what's going on and trying to give them a treatment plan. No. We're holding a space for them that when their teachers are telling them to be some way, their friends, social media, society, when all of that goes away and the dust settles, what do they have to say? That's what we want to hear. So we're just there to hold a space for them, whatever it is. So having that interaction, having that ability to walk around a room, being able to put a hand on a shoulder, the feeling of touch, all of those things, are taken away now. So trying to now navigate that space with black screens because you don't want to turn on your camera, or you realize there's a sister in the room or a parent, that changes the dynamic huge for what we do and the space that we're trying to create to be vulnerable. But we're doing it, and we're doing the best we can.
Right. Yeah, we have, so our program is structured sober living and outpatient treatment, and many of the clients are living in our sober house and attending outpatient treatment, like they walk down the street to a medical building and, do groups and therapy. And when COVID hit and they quarantined everybody, we had clients literally doing Zoom from the sober house. And I feel, like we teach that the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And Sarah, you can certainly talk to this, like what happened without that connection? Like what happened in our treatment program? What was it like?
Without that connection, and I'm sure you see this too, is people are relapsing or engaging in other super high risk behaviors. So without connection and living in the social isolation piece, it's really, really hard to maintain that recovery or even that motivation. And I think even though a lot of our folks were able to stay sober, it was this big struggle of depression and just loss of connection. And it's the 12-step program, it's basically built on this connection, right? And it's so hard. And I'm sure you guys probably see this a lot too with the adolescents, is adolescents, their whole life is revolving around social interaction with their peers, and where do we go from here? And it kind of makes me wonder, how do you guys think that you can continue to support substance abuse prevention with the changing dynamic, with the COVID, with the increased isolation?
Well, I think the really amazing thing that Art from Ashes does is, since Catherine, the director, started this program, the point is to take you kind of on a journey from connection and expression, or expression, connection, transformation. And kind of when you're doing that, a lot of these youth that were coming in, especially on Wednesday, they may not have a roof over their head. Their story is already a bit of a struggle. They're already going through it. But what we do is we want to focus on the narrative. And I think that goes into place for every youth right now that is going through this massive change in this pandemic. And what story now are we going to tell ourselves? We can go always one of two ways. We can go in a destructive way, a way where we're going to use, a substance. We're going to try to do that to try to make this feel better, feel okay. We're feeling sorry for ourselves. Or we can take this time to be empowered and realize that you have the choice in you to go whichever way you want. You get to tell the narrative of your own story. And that's what we've been doing since it first started. So I think this goes right into play with it. Here we are in a pandemic. Here we are. You don't get to go see your friends as much. Maybe you're not going to be on the team that you wanted to. There's so many unknowns and it's scary. So how are you going to play that own role in your own story? Which way are you going to go? And that's what we do through these prompts, sometimes kind of sneaky. And then the things that come out when they actually hear their voice saying them, hearing those words, it's pretty incredible, the light that comes on. They're like, I just wrote that. Yeah, I can believe in that. I'm going to buy into that. And I did it myself.
Well, how did you get involved with Art from Ashes?
Well, I myself am in recovery. I'm actually celebrating my 6-year recovery birthday in January. I'm really excited about that. So recovery is very near and dear to my own heart. And for me, art kind of saved my life. I actually went to college, one of my 17, and then I drank a bottle of whiskey for the next 10 years. So when I got sober, I turned to painting and found that that was what I used for a lot of my time, my new pattern. And so I was thinking about possibly going into art therapy and needed some volunteer work under my belt. So I was looking around town, looking around Denver, looking at some nonprofits, really resonated with Art from Ashes. Never really much was a writer, was much more with my hands and painting. But went in, they have this just phenomenal way of the procedures they have set up, training you before you're ever involved with any of the youth, going through the workshops yourself. And I just found it so incredible that I just wanted to be part of it. And then shortly after, I just resonated well with what was going on, what was happening, and became a staff member. So I've been with them now a little over a year.
Cool. I like it. I did not know that you were in recovery. I don't know if you went. I'm a 12-step guy, and in 12-step programs, we get a sponsor. And my first sponsor that first took me through the steps, I mean, I credit him with saving my life. And he's an artist. He does a lot of art over in the Westwood district, a lot of murals. He's a third generation Mexican, identifies more as Native, and does a lot of like huge murals and makes a living that way. And it's like, it's really important to him. I'm an artist too. I like doing like drip paintings.
Okay, yeah, that's so much fun. Oh.
Right. It's fun. And I mean, I feel like a real artist, even though it's like, a monkey could do it. But here's
my art.
Well, I mean, the drip paintings is easy. You just take the canvas and you drip it, and I stand back and I go, well, I need this color or whatever. But like when you talk to somebody, and we talk to a lot of people in what we do, in this industry we do it. It's like, okay, great. They stopped drinking or they stopped using. What are they doing now? And if the answer is nothing, they got to replace it. You have to replace it with something. You can't just take drugs and alcohol out of your life and white knuckle it because you'll go nuts, right? And some people are artists and maybe they don't know they're artists. But besides the fact that there's like a therapeutic value to actually painting, putting a brush to a canvas or sculpting or whatever kind of art you do, right? You have to replace the addiction with something else. And
well, I think going to exactly what you're saying, I think there's great power too in, okay, so now you're no longer doing any of these substances, and perhaps wherever your confidence level is now at, getting sober and doing this, wherever struggling you're at, I think sometimes the word poet, artist, those are strong words and sometimes can be very intimidating because, I go into a workshop with 20 youth and ask, raise your hand if you think you're a poet. I'm telling you right now, the majority of the time, no one's raising their hand at me. So what I have to remind them is, can you put a word on a piece of paper? You're a poet. And I don't know how many times when I'm, teaching somebody that wants to get into art, take a blank canvas up on a wall, throw some paint on it. You did it. You did art, and that's the beauty of it. There's just this awesome release that happens, getting words down. And of course, with our program, the next spot is saying your words out loud. And that empowerment that comes from reading your own words to an audience, even if it's just me, is incredible.
Yeah, agreed. And we do lots of stuff like that. We had a couple art shows where we're actually, we brought in artists in recovery, and they would do their art shows and they would talk, and we did some open mics and things like that. And there's something like great, even for me, about like having a painting and putting it on the wall of my dining room. It feels good, right? It's like,
feels good.
I did that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and I agree. There's just so much like this internal, like, I feel great about myself just because I was able to like express myself a little more, you know. And I like to hang up my artwork, even if it's bad. I don't care. There's no such thing as bad artwork, really. You know, there's just really so much. And I think like a lot of when we look into like substance use and people who are super susceptible, there's just like a lot of emotional sensitivity there. Right. And in that, when we say like emotionally sensitive, people are probably more creative or more imaginative and more in tune to the world around them. So it's kind of this like gift is, I think that you find more recovering people who are artists.
Right.
And I love that. I love programs that encourage like the general lay person to express that and explore that. And the idea, like, we don't do art to be like professionals. We do art to love ourselves more and to have that like internal self-esteem building and things like that. Like art therapy is so, so essential for healing, in my opinion.
Agree. I would 100% agree. It's the same thing, and really any way you want to get out of your mind a little bit, whether that's painting, poetry. I love that there's so many now things with cooking. Really, any kind of getting your senses involved and getting out of your head a little bit is so good for everybody. For everybody.
Certainly. And that's how this all ties into prevention is you guys are working with youth, right? So if you can like help that self-esteem or that those feelings of self-worth or anything, just disrupt that cycle and maybe, empower them in some tiny way, even it helps the prevention, and God forbid what happens. Like we get kids, and I know it's bad, but maybe they haven't experienced a ton of trauma yet. 5 years on the street doing drugs, now you're going to have some trauma. You're going to have some traumatic events, right? And so the trick is to help people when they're young, because it's way more heartbreaking when somebody gets into recovery older, in their 50s. This is like myself speaking for myself. I didn't get sober till my 40s, and I literally had to go back to therapy and mourn 2.5 decades. I had to grieve 25 years of my life that I lost to the disease of addiction. I had to do it with a therapist. And it would be wonderful to save people from just that, like it's just, I don't know. So I commend you on what you guys are doing and what you're doing.
Thank you. I think that the cool part is, so much of you is getting told exactly what to do. So when sometimes you're allowing them to realize, like, you still get the choice in how you deal with all this. You still get this choice. It is still your life, even if mom and dad are telling you to do this, even if your coach is telling you to do this. Sometimes I think they forget that it's their choice what they decide to do with it. And so when that resonates home, I'm telling you, it's the best feeling for me going into this. This is why I do it. Every single youth is amazing, but finally getting to resonate that empowerment piece it's priceless.
It's awesome. Sarah, do you want to add anything?
I think that the empowerment piece is huge. Even if we don't control what the outcome is, as far as their involvement in this and other community-based programs, the fact that we're empowering them to make choices and to learn how to do things with a different lens, that outlet is super important. I know in my own experience with like active addiction and recovery, there were times where like the arts saved my life. Kind of what you were saying, Laura, is that the arts saved me, being able to like go into a fantasy world or being able to just pull out my sketch pencil and pad and do those things kept me from making permanent decisions while I was engaged in my disease. So I really think it's great. Like we're just setting up kids for success and giving them these like alternative options. And we look at like all these Common Core schools and it's like, okay, so I'm learning 4 things about life and that's it. I'm not learning how to think for myself. I'm not learning how to live outside the box. I'm just learning how to follow the lines. So it makes programs like yours and others super essential, super important. So I think it's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, especially as they're cutting type like the arts from school curriculums too.
Right.
So who's the ideal client? How do they find you? Reach out to them right now.
Again, ideal client is if you are in the ages of 11 to 24, we want to hang out with you. So the best way to get a hold of us is just to either go on our website. I have my email as well, which is just facilitator@artfromashes.org. Reach out to me, and then we just send out a link every Wednesday. Again, it's 100% free to just come and do some writing prompts. So that right now is the best way that we're able to serve without you having to be in one of the high schools that we're in right now, without any of that, just showing up. And sometimes that is the best thing you can do, even if you're not ready to read your poems, even if you're not ready to fully do all that, just show up. And it's amazing what can happen just being able to write. So reaching out to me or going on our website or Instagram. We're doing the best that we can before COVID. One of my favorite things that we're doing is we would have a First Friday event. So every First Friday, we used to have big art walks, obviously, we all know, on Santa Fe and all of those. So our office is close to there. We used to come in, have the youth come in, we do a workshop, have a guest artist there to do kind of performative piece. Like, this is how you should hold the mic. This is how you should be, far away you should be. And that was really awesome. And then we would take them out and we would bring our mic, bring our amp, and we would pay the youth to be like, your voice is important, we respect you. They would get up and read their poem. And it was so cool. So how can we do that and still do that in COVID? Well, Instagram is the best way that we know how to do that right now. So we're still every Friday, if you guys go on to AFA Phoenix at 6 o'clock, you can go in and watch phenomenal youth artists saying their piece from wherever they're at, which we're able to reach a few more people now that way too.
All right. Well, I'm going to go find you guys on Instagram now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you both.
All right. You're awesome, Laura. Art from Ashes is awesome. Sarah, you're awesome.
I know. No.
Okay.
You're awesome too.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Brice, you're awesome too.
Thank
Everyone watching is awesome. Everyone's awesome.
Everyone.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.